Welcome in, everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast. It's me and the sports guy. What's happening, man?
Not much. How are you doing?
Good. I was time vampiring myself, so I thought I was going to be late to our own show. I looked down at my watch. I was like, oh, crap, I got to get down there.
Understood. Today's been a busy day. Mondays are, always tough, but it's today's not so bad. I didn't realize Dustin wasn't going to be here today.
He said he's going to be late, so
Gotcha.
It's all right. It's a Monday morning. He wasn't going to say anything first thing anyway.
Understood. Have you? So I didn't pay attention, not even the slightest bit, in the combines. Anything actually happened?
So there were a couple of things. There were a couple of offensive linemen that showed some speed. They one of them was an offensive tackle out of Kansas. He put up a 4.98 in the 40 at 6'6", 319, which is moving.
That is moving.
Another offensive lineman, he put up a 4.91 at 339. So, I mean, man, imagine one of those guys pulling and blowing you up at the edge. Like,
yeah, that's well, not only that though, but that's still I don't know. Like the fact that they're fast, I don't know that that's as big a deal. I figured defensive guys being fast. I don't know that you need fast on the offensive guys.
You do if you're doing any kind of sweeps. Like if you got a tackle that's going to pull or a guard that's going to pull, them having some speed is helpful, right? Because they can get out in front of the play. There was also a corner out of LSU. His first pass was a 4.30. His second pass was a 4.29. So not only is he 4.3, like sub 4.3, but he's consistent at it. So that was impressive. When it came to the quarterbacks, less so. Jackson Dart was probably the most consistent prospect that was out there. And Milroe did Milroe things. Like he had moments where he looked good and moments where he looked terrible. So, I think one of the weirdest things is when he was at the Senior Bowl, they do hand measurements, right? And he had a hand measurement of like 8.75. And then here at the combine, which is 3 weeks later, it was like just over 9.25. Now, I'm not sure how your hands grow half an inch in 3 weeks, but seems suspect.
Seems like a measuring point, actually.
Well, it's supposed to be thumb to pinky. So, like, I don't know how you mess up over half an inch.
Yeah, from thumb to pinky, right?
Yep.
Wow. I have 9.25.
Yeah.
That's, and I guess
mine is right at 9.5 because I can. My hand is just big enough to palm a basketball.
Yeah, mine's actually more like 9 3/8, and I don't even know if I'm measuring it right. So,
well, it's essentially just the outer point to the outer point, right?
Yeah, and how far you want to stretch it. So if you stretch it like this, it's not so big. But if you're going,
well, yeah, basically they're having you like full spread on the hand,
right?
But still, right?
I guess.
But when it comes to to NFL level guys, if he has a smaller hand than both of us, that's not ideal, right? Like they're usually looking for guys that have like a 10.5. They want some mitts.
Well, I hear that, but I've got some I've been told that I got some monster hands, and like I said, I'm not at 9.5. So I don't know, whatever. I kind of look at it the same way. I think this is where Joe Burrow said, "Oh, they said that I can't throw a football because my hands are too small."
Yeah. Well, it
Yeah,
just means you're more prone to fumbling. Is the knock on it? It's not that you can't throw the ball, right? It's just that your hand doesn't quite wrap around it enough, so then it's easier to smack the thing out. But
don't carry it like that.
right?
That's the way to do that. So, Joe, yes, I did see that Deebo Samuel signed with Washington, and I am actually very excited about it. Give them a cancer.
I mean, athletically though, that's a nice grab, and then for only a fifth, that's amazing.
Yeah. Can you imagine why?
I mean, they wanted him out of there bad. Yes, Favre had huge hands. There is no doubt. His hands like almost touched each other on the other side of the ball. Like he had some monster mitts. But yeah, no, Deebo going to Washington is like if you take the head case portion out of it and you just look at the athleticism, amazing grab.
Yeah.
Right. Beyond that, though, you got to look at the head case portion of it, and I like the cancer. Let's give him some cancer.
They probably get 1 year of him not losing his mind, right? New place. It's kind of like starting a new job, right? Like your first 6 months, you're probably all right. You're still learning about that job, all that. You haven't learned all the bad stuff yet. It's when you're coming in on that 1 year review where you're like, do I quit in this meeting? Like,
yeah, I guess we'll see. I don't know. I think that it's yeah, we'll find out. I don't believe it. I feel like that it's going to be he's going to be just okay over there and cause more of an issue.
So good. Yeah, I don't know. The one thing that it does make me think though is the Seahawks probably don't get rid of DK. If Deebo's only getting a 5, and the top level guys that went during the season last year, at best went for a 3, they probably keep him.
Mm-hmm.
They probably shouldn't, but they probably do.
Well, what do you think? I mean, is he trying to get out?
DK?
Yeah.
No, I think they're looking at it more of a financial situation because the Seahawks are 14 mil over the cap, and DK is 31 mil. Lockett is 31 mil. So there's guys that ultimately will be cap casualties, just because they have to be, right? Like if you want to get under the cap, you're going to have to restructure, let some of these guys go. So that's sort of the thinking behind it. Plus, you have the fact that DK doesn't run a great route tree. He does go balls best. We have an offensive line that doesn't give enough time for go balls. So most of the time he's not that useful. Then he, ultimately gets a lot of after the play penalties because he can't figure out how to, stop battling guys after the whistle. So, I mean, there's things that it would make sense to move on from him, but if all you're going to get back is a 4, I mean, you probably don't get rid of elite speed for nothing, right?
Yeah.
Keep an eye on the Packers, though. The Packers are willing to make Seattle a pretty good offer for DK.
So the thing that's funny is there's been a lot of rumors about it. Green Bay execs say they haven't talked to the Seahawks at all.
They haven't yet. It's more so because they're also trying to get Devontae Adams back, and I think
Yeah,
it
But I
ultimately
mean,
happened.
you're seeing all this speculation of, oh yeah, they'll give up a 3 and a player, and there's been tons of it, right? Like Barstool, everybody has like this. Oh, Green Bay is going to trade, and Green Bay has come out and said we haven't talked to the Seahawks at all.
The one move that was being discussed this morning by Bill and Rookie, who run the Wisconsin sports radio in the morning here, is Jair Alexander and 2 picks for DK.
Yeah, so like if it was Alexander, a 3rd and a 5th, I'd do that trade.
I think they said Alexander a 4th and a 5th is what I think they said
I'd probably still do that trade.
for DK.
Yeah, I'd probably still do that trade because Alexander has a better route tree. And you need guys that are going to get open quicker. Because if you look at DK,
Alexander's a cornerback.
oh, I was thinking of their young receiver that they got not last year, but the year before.
Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jair Alexander's their cornerback.
Yeah, see, that doesn't make any sense to me. You have 2 corners. Woolen and Witherspoon are fine. You got to get Woolen to tackle consistently, but, I mean, he covers fine. I don't think you really need another corner because you still have guys like Kobe Bryant in the room, although technically safety, but, I mean, he played most of his career as a corner. So you don't really need him. If you're going to get rid of a receiver, you need a receiver back, but you need a guy that can get open, right? And if you have, like DK, if you're looking at mid-range stuff, he runs a really lazy route, which is why he's covered so closely. Because if he ran a crisp route, he'd create more separation. He'd probably have more catches. But he tends to round out routes. And if you do that, defenders can stick with that.
Yep.
So I always appreciated a receiver that ran really lazy routes. You didn't have to break so hard. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's funny. There's been so much speculation about Green Bay, despite the fact that there's been no actual conversations.
I don't think they'll have any conversations until free agency starts too, because I think the Packers are going to look at the free agency market to see what receivers are available. Then you have obviously the draft. Are they going to draft a receiver? And then once you get past the draft is when I think their initial conversations are going to start, where it's like, well, we didn't get the free agent we didn't draft a receiver, so we have Metcalf available, we have Lockett available, we have Cooper Kupp, like we have these receivers who are on the trade block that we'll get one of them.
If you're making a deal for DK, though, you'd want to do that before the draft, because that's going to change what you do in the draft. Like if you're looking for a number 1 speed guy,
They have that.
They have a number 1 speed guy.
Like Jaden Reed has got good speed. Christian Watson, when he's healthy, has good speed. Like they have their speed guys. The thing that the Packers don't have in the wide
he's
receivers.
faster than both those guys.
Well, I know, but the thing that the Packers don't have in their receiver room is a big body receiver. DK Metcalf is a big body receiver.
Yeah, but DK's not that guy. Like if that's what you're getting him for, he's not that guy. He drops passes that hit him in the hands a lot. He'll make the crazy contested catch downfield.
That's what they want. They have enough receivers that make the easy catches. They don't have the receiver that can make the tough catches.
So you're saying they want a speed guy?
That's another reason why they're looking at Devontae Adams coming back.
They have their speed guy, and then be like, "Oh yeah, they want him for downfield on tough catches."
That's another reason why they want Devontae Adams too, is because Jaden Reed and Christian Watson and like Romeo Doubs, like they're good speed guys that can make the easy catches. But when you get them in like contested catch situations, all 3 of those guys struggle at making the contested catch. They need that guy that they can throw the ball up for grabs that can come down with a contested catch.
So DK can do that.
That's why they're looking at DK, and that's why they're looking at Devontae Adams, because Devontae Adams, despite losing a step or two the last couple of years, can still go up and get a contested catch.
Yeah, well, but Devontae can also run other routes.
Yeah.
So that's where Devontae is more appealing than DK. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to talk him out of a DK situation, but But I mean, if you were going between those two and you need a guy that can get contested balls but also get open, you're taking Devontae.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when you're looking at DK, you're a go route, you're a post or a corner, like anything that's stretching the field, he's good. But anything shorter than that, it's okay. But
I keep thinking of somebody else who's very fast, who's also possibly on the market. Isn't that? Don't we have somebody in Miami who's trying to get out of Miami?
no, I mean, he did just say, I'm excited about this next year. It's going to be my best year ever. I mean, which is hilarious because what do you expect him to say? It's not like he's like, hey, guys, I'm going to suck this year.
Tyreek
he already did that last year, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was hurt on and off, right?
Yeah.
So wasn't exactly going to be great. But it's not like you're also going to come out as a receiver and be like, you know what? I think I'm just going to be just
mid.
Just
It's gonna be mid this year.
Right.
I don't feel like having a good year this year. I feel like just being mid this year. See how far that gets me.
Well, I mean, Miami still got the same problems they always have.
Yeah.
The quarterback.
Yeah.
So Tua I figure he's going to suffer his first concussion in week 3, and then again in week 11, and that's that. We'll see, though.
I mean, when he's on the field, too, is good, but that's the thing. He's on the field half the time. The other half the time, he's figuring out how his head's not going to fall off.
He's not good at figuring that out.
No, he still hasn't figured that part out.
No, I mean, he seems to learn, and then the next game he's like, "Oh yeah, let me lead with my head again." It's like, dude, what are you doing?
Do you have a way too early prediction on who you think is going to come out of each division?
Me?
Either one.
Yes, I do. I'm guessing you guys gave those already, or haven't you given those yet?
No. I hadn't really thought about it yet, but
I do. In 6 of the 8 divisions, I have a good early prediction who I think is going to come out. The other 2, I haven't gotten that far yet, just because a lot can change, I think, this offseason yet.
Well, I mean, that's why I haven't really thought about it yet. Is, ahead of the draft and free agency, there's a lot of movement about to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see it, but I don't see anybody changing their so much. Like, I feel like
the two
here's what I
divisions,
do feel like.
the
I
two
feel like
divisions that would change are the NFC West and possibly the AFC North.
See, I think the NFC North is going to change a lot this year. And I say that in terms of just their records, not necessarily their teams. I think their records.
Well, I think their records are going to be drastically different this year, but I still have the Lions as the ones to come out of that division, but I don't think they're going to win 15 games next year. I think they're going 12-5.
Yeah, I think it goes much
12-5, 11, 12-5, 11-6 range for the Viking or for the Lions and Packers. I think Minnesota can win 10 games next year, 11. They're not winning 14. I think the Bears, I think, are set up to win 9, possibly 10 games too. Like, I think that division will be a lot more compacted, but I don't see anybody winning 14, 15 games in that division next year.
Have there been any word on quarterback?
In Minnesota, yes, there is. They have the dollar figures discussed with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold gave Minnesota the lowest amount of money he would take. Minnesota gave Sam Darnold the highest amount of money they would give him. So they have the range of where they want the contract to be. Now it's just a matter of, are they going to franchise him to basically have the money split right down the middle? Do you give him a 2, possibly 3-year extension where if he performs well enough in year 1, you can possibly trade him before the second year of that contract and then roll with McCarthy anyways? Or do you just let him walk and see what he can get on the open market? The dollar amounts are between 37 and 48. Vikings will not go higher than 48, but Darnold does not want lower than 37.
I mean, I feel like that's easy math to work out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm scratching my head because I'm like, oh, hold on.
Because Darnold is still hoping to get a 3 or a 4 year deal, and if Minnesota goes 4 years, they're not going $45 million a year. They will be on the lower end of what he's looking for if they go 4 years, probably like 4 at 120, or 4 at 160, which is $40 million a year. They'd be at the lower end of what he's looking for. Versus if you go 2 years, you could go 2 at 90, 2 at 95, and then be at the higher end of what he's looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine most teams aren't going to go that route just because you have Darnold having one good year. I would bet most teams are going to do the Geno Smith route where it's 2 years and a third option.
That's what I think is going to end up happening. I think it's going to end up being somewhere like in the 2 at 90, 2 at 95 range. If he plays well again in year one, I don't think they stick with him in year two. I think they try to either trade him before the year 2 of that contract hits and go with McCarthy anyways.
Well, and that's why I think it's a 3-year deal, right, with the voidable third year, because then you get to spread that cap hit out. So whether he's still on your team or not, doesn't
like
matter.
3 years at 107.
Exactly.
Yeah, at 107, signing bonus. Signing
Exactly.
bonus.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because that's really because the signing bonus is the money you're making. That's really what it comes down to.
Yep.
Everything else is like, okay, it's all bull. So realistically, they would eat some to get rid of him for the third year.
Yeah.
Which is what you really want to do in the first place. You're paying to get rid of him. So
that's exactly it.
yeah,
Yep.
so you're doing it at $53.5 million for 2 years. Yeah, but really you're spreading that out over 3 years. So you're going to eat like say if at the 45, so you're at 90 and you're wind up eating 27 million, which now isn't so ridiculous.
No.
No,
You know-
in fact, when you see teams eating crazy numbers, 20, 27, that's manageable.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because you'd still have a rookie quarterback.
Right. I don't know that. And I'm beginning to believe, like, listen, why would you do this and still have McCarthy? My thought is that don't you want to find out exactly what you have with McCarthy as soon as possible?
I think it's because they have a win now team and they've seen them win now with this team.
Yeah, but did they have a win now team or do they have a hey
They
we won last year because we had an easier schedule against common opponents?
They have a win now team. It's just more so once the offensive line got hurt at the end of the year, it really exposed what that team was still missing. Because for the first 13 weeks of the season, their offensive line was a top 10 offensive line. And Minnesota was looking like a Super Bowl contending team those first 13 weeks because you protected Darnold.
All right, let's go. I want to go back now. I want to see.
Once the protection broke down, though, like
that's what the thing. Once the protection broke down, then it just basically showed you that you're not at a Super Bowl contending level yet. You're at a playoff contending level, but you still need more protection up front. You still need other pieces that you don't have. They still have a lot of their offensive weapons for another 3-4 years. So offensively, they are in win now mode offensively. It's the defense that is losing pretty much the entire secondary. They're going to have to replace their entire secondary in free agency and the draft. Defensive line is fine. Linebackers are all signed for another 3-4 years. So the front seven of their defense is fine. It's the back end of that defense that needs to be retooling. So yes, they're technically in win now mode, but they're also kind of in that retool mode on certain parts of the ball where that's kind of why you want Darnold back, because if you throw McCarthy in there this year and you don't have like everything retooled the way you want to, it might end up being a 7-win season because you're not in a position to be like McCarthy. Here are the keys to the car. We have everybody on offense for you. We have everybody on defense for you. Like, go and run the team versus you bring Darnold back. It's
especially because if you remember, McCarthy also wasn't asked to do that much in Michigan. So you don't really know how good he's going to be.
That's why I think they wait one more year for McCarthy and they try to build this team up enough where it's like, we have the team we have in place for the next 2-3 years. Here are the keys to the car. Do what you did at Michigan. We'll let everybody else on the other positions do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Versus now it's like
Darnold. That's the
Darnold.
biggest thing is he wasn't asked to do a lot. Like they relied heavily on a run game.
Yep.
And he had to make half a dozen
good throws a game.
Good throws.
Yeah.
Like not even amazing. Just
versus Darnold, you saw that Darnold can win games with his arm last year. So if the defense is struggling next year, you know Darnold can at least keep you competitive and win games with his arm. So like that's kind of where I think Minnesota is willing to sit with McCarthy one more year before they hand him the keys.
No, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what it is they do. McCarthy can be a good quarterback, but I mean, if he sits another year, like that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, he's not a game-changing quarterback. Like he's not a Jalen Hurts, he's not a Patrick Mahomes, like he's not a Jaden Daniels, like this game-changing quarterback.
No,
He
but
is
he could be Jordan Love though.
Yeah, he can be Jordan Love. Like he is a good game manager that can have a good game every now and then.
Mhm.
But he's also a game manager that can have a bad game every now and then, which is why he needs as many weapons around him on both sides of the ball to minimize the floor and maximize the ceiling.
All right. So
There you
I pulled up before I answer this question. September, they played the Giants,
Which Giants are the Giants.
right? The 49ers, who we realized stunk.
At the time, but at the time they played them in week 2, no one realized they were going to be bad. So I mean that I can't take anything away from Minnesota in that game because nobody knew the 49ers were going to be what they were when they
go.
ended the
And they
season.
were still mostly healthy by then, right?
Mhm.
So
Then they beat Houston week 3 again. Houston was 2-0 going into that game. No one expected that game to be 34-7.
Right. And then they beat the Packers by,
It was 28-0 at one point, and they let the Packers back into it. But yeah,
then the Jets.
which that's the London game. Well, that's the London game though too. Though you never know what you're going to get in London. Like
That's
anytime the teams go to London, like I never say it's a dumpster fire game just because it's a coin flip because you don't know how each team is going to respond.
I
to
just
it.
meant the Jets.
Yeah. But that was the London game. That's why if they would have lost that game, I would have just been, oh, it was a London game. It is what it is.
Sure.
Oh, by the way, the Eagles just released Darius Slay.
Did they?
Adam Schefter just put out that the Eagles are releasing 6-time Pro Bowler Darius Slay.
Yeah, that he knew that was coming.
Yeah. Well, what was his cap, right? Like, because I think he was.
Yeah, I think it was a certain amount of money. I wouldn't be surprised they bring him back.
I wouldn't either for cheaper. I wouldn't either.
Yeah, I think that was a cap hit, and he'll be. I think he'll be back. I don't. Yeah, he may try to get more money, but I don't think he's going to. I think he wants to. I think he wants to finish here, and so I think that this is a business decision in total.
So yeah, then you look at the Vikings after the Jets. They had Detroit, which
Well, they had a bye. Then they had the bye. And then they came out of the bye and loss.
Yep, because it was Detroit at home that they lost by 2, which, I mean, it was Detroit. If you're going to lose to a team, you're going to lose to Detroit. And then they lost to the Rams on Thursday night out in L.A. That was another game that I kind of had as a coin flip because it's a short week. Not only is it short week, but you're going short week all the way out to Los Angeles, so it's a cross-country flight. And that was the first game all year that the Rams had both Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp in the lineup at the same time. And that was ultimately the game that the Rams turned their season around. Because once those two were both in the lineup, you started to see the offense look like the offense the Rams expected it to look like.
And it was a Thursday night game.
Yep.
So then they squeak one by the Colts.
Yep, Darnold's crap game.
They squeak one by the Jaguars.
Another Darnold crap game.
The Titans, I mean, I guess you can't say they squeaked it, but it wasn't really a super showing there.
No.
Against a bad Titans team.
Right. And then they beat the Bears. So, I mean, really, they won all their games in November, but nothing, crazy. Then they squeak one by the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals lost that game on a 2-point conversion. Did they not?
No, they lost it on the last-second touchdown. The Cardinals are up 22-16, and then Minnesota scored with 3 seconds left on a Aaron Jones.
A minute 18.
I mean,
a minute 18 left,
You
yeah.
can't really hate on that game, though. Like, Arizona had some good games last
They
year.
did, and the thing that I give Minnesota the most, that was the one time this year where I will say that Minnesota's defense won them that game because Arizona was in the red zone, 7 times in that game, and they came away with 1 touchdown. And Minnesota held them to 5 field goals.
Arizona was wildly inconsistent. Like, they would have games where you're like, oh, wow, like they look like they're going to contend. And then they would have games where they were just absolutely falling all over themselves.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of sacks in that game.
Yeah, that was
And
the first.
2 interceptions.
That was really the first game where Minnesota's offensive line was exposed for the most part.
But 1 for 8 on third down.
Yep.
Like this was one of those things where actually everything went in Arizona's favor. I mean, I'm looking at the time of possession was 35
Yep.
minutes to 24,
Yep.
36 to 24. 2 interceptions was the big deal, and the 5 sacks. But everything said, hey, 5 for 13. I mean, they were 1 for 8 on third down.
Mhm.
So Minnesota was already starting to show their colors there. Then you have the Falcons, which was a blowout win. So it was a blowout win. It wasn't a blowout win until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, let's say we're up. It was 21-21 heading into the fourth, and then Sam Darnold was like, enough's enough. I'm just going to fire across everybody.
Well, and then Addison, that was 3 touchdowns by Addison that
And
day.
two by Jettis.
Choose Jettis.
Jefferson.
Okay.
He had 2, and then Addison had 3.
Yep. And then they beat the Bears again, who at that point they quit.
Yeah.
The Seahawks was an interesting win, I guess,
was a
because
good
they
win.
always play bad up in Seattle.
And that's why that was a good win.
And they won that, and he actually had a really good game, 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, 112.3 passer rating. And then beat the Packers again. I think. Why do I feel like that this was the one that they allowed them to come back? Right?
They did because the Packers were getting completely dominated again through 3 quarters, and then Minnesota once again is like, well, we're up by 17 points heading into the fourth. We'll take our foot off the gas, and then with 2 minutes left, we're like, oh, we got to put our foot back on the gas, and they got the first down they needed.
Right, and then of course they got spanked by the Lions,
and then lost to the Rams again,
and then spanked to the Rams.
So all 4 of their losses came to the Lions and Rams.
Yep.
Literally twice in back-to-back games, 2 times in the year.
Yep.
I mean, you look at that schedule. They beat who they were supposed to beat. Like the AFC South was terrible outside of Houston, and when they beat Houston in Week 3, I don't think anyone expected that score to be 34-7.
No,
but they beat the other 3 AFC South teams, which you expected them to beat. They beat the Giants, who you expected them to beat. They beat the Bears, who you expected them to beat at least once, maybe not twice, because they historically struggle in Chicago. So if they would have lost in Chicago, I don't think anyone would have been like, oh, that's a bad loss. But they beat the Bears. So the 6 of their wins were against teams you expected them to beat.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the season was like, I don't think anyone thought they would beat the Niners. I don't think anyone thought they would beat the Packers twice.
Yeah.
Lions, they lost both those games, which I think most people thought they would lose both those games. Falcons, I think a lot of people thought Atlanta would have beat Minnesota too if Cousins was healthy and playing like the Cousins that everyone thought he would be. So there's a lot of wins that they had that I don't think people thought they would get.
No, for sure. For sure. And Joe, you're not going to do a whole lot in free agency because you don't have any money.
Yeah, not only that, but it's like as I'm looking at this, they're like, that's why they're talking about bringing back DeMarcus Lawrence. That's why, it's like I don't see they're going to give the franchise tag to Adegazua. Is that how I say that?
Something like that, yeah.
Agazua. I don't see the Cowboys. Joe, as much as you are going to say this is your year,
It's not.
I don't
your
believe
year,
it. It's not your year.
Like I think you guys missed the playoffs based on the team you're about to field, and just based on the other teams in your division. I mean, I think you're going to be in that. You're probably going to be like a 9-win team at best.
Who?
Cowboys.
Oh, I don't even think we get the 7 wins.
Like,
yeah, no chance. No chance.
Scenario, rainbows and unicorns.
No chance. See, I don't care if the rainbows and unicorns are on the field. There ain't no chance. Ain't no chance.
Yeah.
I got them. I got them at 7 wins, baby. 6.
Yeah.
6 is where I really think they're going to be at. And I mean, just looking at their upcoming schedule, I mean, I look at them. All right, so they were in 3rd place.
Yep.
Are they beating the Packers? I don't think so.
Where
Are they beating the Panthers?
Never mind.
Are they beating the Panthers? maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
they're beating them.
I don't know that they're going to beat the Panthers this year. I think the Panthers actually make a little bit of a turn and they start to improve, where I
Okay.
think that you have the Cowboys downturning. Then you have the Cardinals. And I'm just talking, that's the teams in third place.
Yeah, see, the Cardinals are the same thing though. Like Bo said before, the Cardinals were such a Jekyll and Hyde team last year, where they had 3 straight weeks where they literally looked like the best team in the NFC West, and then all of a sudden the next 4 weeks they looked like crap. They couldn't get the happy medium where they played the same level the whole year.
Right. And I think
You're
that
not
means
wrong,
they
Chris.
also have to play the Lions, the Packers, and the Bears, right? Because we play you guys this year.
The Eagles.
The NFC East plays the NFC
Joe,
North.
you are
Yeah.
not going to be better than last year.
Yes.
Like best case, you're the same as last year.
Yeah. So that
7-10. 7-10 is what you guys were last year. I got you guys about that, maybe one less.
See that's why, like, whenever people grade like the strength of schedule, and everyone said that Minnesota won 14 games because they had an easy strength of schedule. When the strength of schedule is actually released, that strength of schedule is released before the start of the season.
Yeah, of course.
Minnesota had a top 10 strength of schedule when the season started.
Sure. Yeah,
But
you didn't
then-
know
but
some of those teams were going to be bad until after
Exactly,
the team.
and then teams like got hurt. So you can't just, whenever people say Minnesota won because they had an easy schedule, it's like, well, you can't punish the Vikings for having teams that were supposed to be good struggle. You can't punish them for having teams be super injured. They had the schedule they were given. They played to their schedule and they won
Yeah.
14
I
games
mean,
with the schedule
Yeah,
that was
you
given to
got to
them.
beat who's in front of you. I mean, simple as that. Everybody has to do that.
Because
And Joe, even if you stay healthy, I'm still saying 9 is
Yeah.
best case scenario.
And I'm not even saying that. Like, we play the NFC North this year, right? That's who we
Yeah.
play. We play. So that means, are you beating the Lions? No.
Definitely not.
Are you beating the Vikings? No.
Nope, because that game is maybe because the game is in Dallas.
Yeah, I mean
Maybe.
that's a coin flip.
Are you beating the Packers?
No.
Are you beating the
Regardless of where-
Bears?
Yeah,
That's
you're
a coin flip.
If the game is in
That's a coin
if the
flip.
game is in Chicago, I would say no. If the game is in Dallas, I would say yes, because if the Cowboys got to go to Chicago in December, they may not win in Chicago in December.
Well, no, I mean, I'll give you that. Yeah.
So you're hoping on a split with the Eagles. I know that you're hoping on that. Like, and I don't think that you're going to get close. You're hoping with a split with Washington, which I think is a little bit more feasible, but just because you guys, for some reason or another, can beat Washington, and you're looking at maybe trying to beat the Giants twice. So at most, right there, I think that you have in mind 4 wins, but I think realistically you have maybe 2 wins. I think you beat the Giants once, and I think that you beat the Commanders once, and
I think you beat the Giants twice. I think Giants are in for a rough year.
I think I agree, but I also think that they are. It depends on who they get as a quarterback. I think that the quarterback can make a big difference, and if Shedeur Sanders by chance gets over there, I think that his being dynamic could win a game, and especially against Dallas, I think that would actually kind of shine through a little bit.
Yeah.
So you got all right. So we'll give you the 3 wins though, that you win both games against the Giants and you win a game against the Commanders. I don't see you beating the Eagles. And that's just my opinion, but I think that we concur here.
Sure.
That means you have a coin flip on Minnesota.
Yep.
And I will say you're going to beat the Bears. So you got right now 4 and a possible is what we're going to go with. 4 and a P. The Panthers, we'll give you that win. That's now 5 and a P. And then the Cardinals, I think you lose that game.
Yeah.
So that's just that. Now, who else are we playing? It's like, so you play
The Cards could be a coin flip just because they're so inconsistent.
your 17th game is against the Broncos. That's a
No.
loss.
That depending though.
It's in Denver.
But if the Broncos have a playoff spot clinched, do they sit people? That's the thing.
It's not. We're saying it's game 17, but that doesn't mean that it's actually going to be game 17. It's just the 17th game.
Yeah, you don't know when the schedules aren't released yet.
Right. Yeah. So you can play
that-
the 17th game week 1, but I'm just saying that's the 17th.
So yeah, that'll be a
game.
loss then. Yeah.
So that's a loss. And then we are playing. I think we play the. because we played the East. Do we play the North this year?
Yeah, you played the AFC, the NFC
We
North.
played we played the AFC North. I'm talking the AFC South. Do we play this year?
I don't know who you're.
Because I know our 17th game.
So
It's got to be the South because I know we don't play the Patriots. I know we do play the Bills. We play the Bills and the Patriots this year.
So
So
you played the AFC East.
so yeah. So that means are you beating the Bills?
No.
No. Are you beating the Dolphins?
No.
You're not going to beat the Dolphins. I'm saying maybe a possible there. The Jets.
Yes.
Yeah, you could beat that. So now you're at 6 and a P, and the Patriots.
Yes.
And I think I think that's a P, because I think the Patriots get much better this year.
I think they get better, but I still think Dallas will have the better team than the
So,
Patriots, at least this year.
all right, so 7 and a P, 7 and a possible. That's what we come up with, and that's just not knowing the schedule. And I think that 7 is actually given a lot, because everybody else is going to improve, and you guys are going to remain the same because you just ain't got the money.
And that's kind of the way I'm looking at the Vikings. I'm looking at the Vikings this year in the same situation I looked at them last year. Like, I had Minnesota winning 5 or 6 games last year when the schedule came out based on who they were facing. And then obviously teams got hurt, teams struggled. But you look at the Vikings schedule this year, I'm hoping they can go 3-3 in their division next year. I'm hoping we split with everybody at least once, because the Bears are going to be improved. The Packers and the Lions are the Packers and the Lions. Like, I don't see us sweeping the Packers again next year. I'm hoping that we can at least get 1 game from the Lions. So if we go 3-3 in the division, I'd be happy. We're not going to beat Philly next year. We're not going to beat Washington next year. We're not going to beat Baltimore next year, and we probably won't beat Cincinnati. Like, that's 5 games right there where you're probably not winning. Atlanta, it's coin flip, but I say that we can beat Atlanta because we get them at home, so that's 4 wins. Then we go to Dallas, which I think we can beat Dallas, that's 5. Giants we can beat, that's 6. I don't think we beat the Steelers. I think we can beat Cleveland, that's 7, and then we have Seattle and the Chargers as our other 2. 8, maybe 9 possibly.
All right.
We probably have, in realistic, the hardest home schedule in the NFL next year.
I was backwards on this. So the Jets is their 17th game.
Yeah.
We play the AFC West. Yeah. So that actually works out worse for the Cowboys. Where we gave them 2 wins for the Jets and the Patriots. They got to play the Raiders,
they get 1
the Broncos.
They get the Raiders.
Yeah.
They get
maybe the Raiders. Depending on where they play at.
Yeah.
You know, if it's in Vegas, it's possible the Raiders could win.
But you look at Minnesota's home schedule next year, they might have the hardest home schedule in the NFL next year. Because you get the Bears, the Lions, the Packers in Minnesota. You get Philadelphia in Minnesota. You get Washington in Minnesota. You get Baltimore in Minnesota. You get Cincinnati in Minnesota, Atlanta, and the Chargers. That is a brutal home schedule.
It
makes good for good games for the fans, but that is a brutal home schedule.
Okay. It is. So, but I mean, that's why they, if they have that type of season, and I guess if Darnold is half the guy he was this year, I mean, who knows?
If Darnold is half of what he was this past year, they can win 10 games. Maybe 11, depending. But if he looks the way he did the final 2 weeks, or if they commit to J.J. McCarthy by week 1, 6 wins, maybe 7 is what I think they can get, just because they don't have the depth that some of the other teams are going to play. They just don't. They don't have the top-level talent that the Eagles have. They don't have the top-level talent that the Commanders have and the Ravens and some of these other teams that are on their schedule. They have talent, but they just don't have like the top-level talent that some of these other teams have.
Well, and I tell you, as I look at it now, like where I look at the Eagles' schedule kind of on their away games, obviously we play the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Chargers in the AFC away. And then the Broncos and the Raiders at home. Out of those games right there, I mean, I think we beat the Chargers. It doesn't matter. We own that stadium in LA.
I think you go 4-1.
Yeah, I think that I think that if there's a game that we could possibly lose, I mean, I guess it's the Chiefs or the Bills. For some reason,
I think you lose one of those two. I don't think you win them both. I think you
Yeah,
lose
both
one
of them
those
be
two.
away. Both of them being away. It's that, and then like I said, as we go through, because we play Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay always has our number, and it's in Tampa. It depends on what time of the season it is. I feel like we can beat them in the regular season. In the playoffs, they seem to get us for some reason. I'll be able to figure that. The Rams come to our house. I think that's a win. I think we always beat the Rams. And then we play the Lions, the Vikings, the Packers, and the Bears. The Lions come to us this year. The Vikings,
You go to Minnesota.
we go to Minnesota. The Packers, I don't know. I guess do the Packers come? No, we go to Lambeau, and then the Bears come here. So I think we have good luck in Lambeau. For some reason, we seem to win those games. We've always beat the Bears, except when the fog rolls in. And since it's Philly, it won't be a foggy day. Going to Minnesota is that's a tough one. For some reason or another, we don't do well in Minnesota.
You won the Super Bowl in Minnesota. You do just
Yeah,
fine.
but we didn't play against Minnesota.
Yeah.
And every time we go up to Minnesota, it's like going to Seattle. When we we don't do well in Seattle, we don't do well in Minnesota. So I think that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. And like I said, Detroit comes to us this year, which I think is helpful because it switches them to outdoors. So as long as I also believe that there is a good potential. If there's another game other than Washington that is the start of the season, it could be Detroit. Because it's like the one game that everybody thought.
This always makes me laugh that people get hung up on this. You are part of the fan base. So you're saying we as a collective team effort, right? Like everybody understands you're not part of the team or on the roster. Like everybody gets that. But they're saying we as a fan base, like we are coming to your town. Like it's not that hard.
And Mickey, I go to every game. So it's a we thing because I feel like I travel just like with the team. I report on it every week. I am at every game nonstop. It's a we thing. So, yeah, we are not going to Seattle this year because
That is true.
Seattle couldn't cut it. Actually, it's the year off. So even if you guys had been in the same part as we were, you would have came to our place.
Yep.
Not that that helps. I mean, typically we don't do well against Seattle in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, for some reason or another, Minnesota is always a tough place for us to play. But so I mean, I don't have us going 14-3. I think I got us going 13-4.
Okay.
I think that we go down a step. Because it's a tough schedule. That is a really tough schedule. But yeah, it is what it is. I hate that it just my screen went blue for a second saying, "Hey, your computer is out of date." And we're not fixing any more Windows 10. So update your computer.
Oh, yeah.
Windows, you can suck it.
Yeah, see, we have an interesting one. We have we got the Texans. That'll be an interesting game.
I mean, they should be better. If they're healthy, they should be better.
So that means, but that's game 17.
So this one doesn't list them that way. This is just saying
you play at the Texans.
No, it is a home game.
All right, so that means you're playing the AFC South.
Yes, we are. So we got the Texans, we got the Colts, Saints, Bucks. I think that's probably a 2-2 situation.
The Texans, Colts, Jags, and Titans. You saying you're going to lose to the Colts?
You're going 3-1.
I'd say that. I mean, I think the Jags are going to stink. I think the Titans are still going to stink.
Yeah.
I think that the Colts are going to be okay, which is a possible. But I
I
got
think
you. So I got
Houston,
you 2-1 and a P.
I think Houston would be your only loss in the AFC South if you lose the game. I think it'll be Houston because the rest of the AFC South is not good.
Yeah,
And then
no,
that means
I think the Texans are probably a loss.
your 17th game is against the Chargers. Are you going to the Chargers this year?
Steelers.
Okay, then yeah,
That's
that's a
a
tough
flip.
one too.
That's a flip. That's a flip one.
Well, that depends on who they have a quarterback, right? I mean, who knows? Like if it's Fields, you got a really good shot.
Oh yeah, if it's Justin Fields, you can win that game big. But even with like Russell Wilson or whoever, as long as their defense plays the way they typically do, that defense I think will give Geno Smith some problems. And the offensive line of Seattle some problems, just because if Seattle doesn't address that offensive line, TJ Watt will have a field day.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is can Seattle fix this offensive line? Because if they can't, then, dude, what are we even talking about? Like Geno's going to get smashed back there. But I mean, we have a very winnable schedule. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like we do, Minnesota comes here. So we do play the Vikings.
We go there again?
You do?
Jesus, what do we have to do to get you guys to come to Minnesota?
Yeah, we don't do that.
See, how does that work? I thought it used to work where, like, if you won a game at the opposing person's venue the one year, they were supposed to come to your venue the next year. Like, how does that work? Like, when they decide which team's going here?
So it's always it rotates in terms of the AFC, the NFC West and NFC North, and who you actually like when you play the one team. It rotates whether you're home or away. So next year, that I'm talking in 2026, that you're going to be playing because you're going to Seattle, the next year NFC West opponent that you get in the same spot as will come to Minnesota for 2026. And then the opposite will be true to the other teams.
Oh, yeah, because we actually just played the North last year. So, yeah. No, that makes sense.
So it's literally, it just goes back and forth when you guys are on that off.
It just seems like we've been in Seattle every year since like 2015. I can't even remember the last time Seattle came to Minnesota.
Yeah, we don't want to go to Minnesota. It's fine. And yes, Geno will be a Seahawk. Like simple as that. He's under contract for another year anyway. They're working on his extension this week, in fact. But the biggest thing is there's no free agents or draft picks that they can actually go get that is an upgrade from Geno. So they're going to keep Geno just because there's no other options. So whether you're a Geno guy or you're not a Geno guy, bang for the buck, he is the best fit for this year at a minimum.
Yes, definitely.
So, yeah, unless they decide that they want to go back to Russell Wilson. I heard he's available.
Yeah, I don't see that being a thing. I could see him going to the Raiders, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's going to go there either. I think they're going to try to do everything they can to get a Shedeur Sanders. And I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make a deal with the Giants where they give up next year's first-round pick, too. And the Giants, actually, they trade down 3 spots and next year's first-round pick. And maybe like a third or a fourth swap. You know what I mean? We're going to swap. We're going to give you a third and you give us your fourth. Yep. So they move down 3 spots. The Giants move down 3 spots, get a third-round pick, give up a fourth-round pick, and they acquire a first-round pick next year. That makes sense to me in my head in terms of the numbers game that you have to play when you're playing with those picks.
Yeah,
that's
what we opened the show with there, Chris.
Slay is not getting released until June 1st. So or June 4th, whatever that day is. June 1st.
And Locke isn't going to be a Seahawk. He's not a Seahawk already. He's in New York. He's a Giant currently. And the Seahawks won't bring him back because they can't afford him. They are going to rock with the quarterback room that they have. I imagine Because Sam Howell has another year under his contract,
Yeah.
and Geno has another year. So Seattle's quarterback room is more or less set at the moment. That being said, that gets us to the end of the show. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Helps us bring our content to you. If you're watching on Roku TV, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we are going to get out of here. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Later, guys.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports.